Hey guys, it's Tori and today I'm going to be doing my Christmas haul. So I am filming this first part on a different day than I'll finish the later part because I am going to be staying with my parents for Christmas and I've already received a few books from people that I want to mention in here, but I don't necessarily want to take quite that many books with me to my parents' house this next week. So I figure I will just make this clip now and show you 3 of the books I've received already, and then I will show you the rest later at my parents' house where I'll have them, just so that I don't have to lug even more books over there, because let me tell you, I already am lugging quite a few for the sake of just keeping my reading options open without having to drive back to my apartment. Not that I'm that far, but you know, it's just one less thing to worry about. So anyway, let's get into what I've gotten so far as of December 17th. So first of all, I was able to get this beautiful coffee table book, Remarkable Books by the World's Most Beautiful and Historic Works. And this is a gift from one of my friends from college. We were roommates at one point and there's 4 of us and we regularly hang out together here and there throughout the year. And for Christmas, we each picked a name within the group and just got gifts for each other. And she had me and got me this. And basically it's just a informational book about manuscripts of these really famous books. So just, yeah, a lot of really beautiful imagery, and we have just, yeah, old illustrated texts from throughout the centuries, and they're really, really beautiful and fun to look at. So definitely one that I am happy to have. There's Don Quixote, some of the original manuscripts of that. So yes, very, very intriguing and beautiful, and definitely super pretty to put on my shelves. So there's the first one that I got this year so far. Then the next 2 I am going to mention I received from my wonderful booktube friends. First of all, Jennifer Brooks, and she ended up sending me Cecily by Annie Garthwaite, which I was so excited to receive. It was so kind of her. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Again, I've already messaged her, but I'm so happy to have this. This is a fictionalized retelling of the life of Cecily Neville, who was mother of Edward IV and Richard III. For those of you who are unaware, I really, really love Richard III, and the Wars of the Roses is very intriguing to me, and Cecily Neville was a huge part of that. So I'm very excited to read this. I've heard good things, and the cover is gorgeous, so excited to pick this up. I have been in a Wars of the Roses mood recently, so I may end up still bringing this to my parents' house. I haven't decided yet, but I may need to read something Wars of the Roses soon. Suffice it to say, I do have a few other options that I already owned that I could read, but depending on exactly what my mood is, I may need to pick this up soon. And the other book that I have here from a booktube friend is from Connor Stompanato, so thank you, Connor, as well. I'm so, so grateful. I didn't know this was coming, and when it arrived, I was at my parents' house, and I got so emotional. I was so touched that he was kind enough to send me this, and it is The Daughters of Sparta by Claire Haywood. This is a story, a retelling of the story of Helen of Troy and her sister Clytemnestra. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right. I need to look up exactly how you pronounce it. But I am actually currently reading a book about Helen of Troy right now that I'm not loving. I mean, I'm intrigued enough to keep going, but I'm not loving it a ton, and I'm very curious to see if I prefer this one over that one, especially because I am a little more, to be honest, a little more intrigued by Clytemnestra than I am by Helen of Troy. Not that I don't find Helen interesting at all, I just find myself drawn to Clytemnestra's story a little bit more. And this one's going to go into both of them, I think, a little bit more, which the one I'm reading right now is primarily just Helen. So anyway, I'm really excited to read this. I've heard good things about it. I think Jennifer actually said that she really liked it, Jennifer Brooks. So yes, very excited to have this, and thank you again, Connor. Okay, so it's now after Christmas, and I'm going to do the rest of this Christmas haul. I'm at my parents' now, like I mentioned in the previous clips. so bit of a different background, but let's just get right into this because I have quite a few. So what ended up happening was I mostly got gift cards, which was just fine with me. So I ended up using all of them very fast because I just have had a lot of books on my wish list for a very long time, and so I've ended up picking up several things that have been on my radar for a year or if not more. And then I also got a few bookish kind of inspired items that I'll share towards the end of the video. So I'm going to start with books I got with my gift cards, specifically from thrift books. So I ended up getting quite a few. I think I ended up getting 14 books. I love thrift books. They're so inexpensive and it just makes it so easy to get a lot for not too much money. So I ended up having two separate transactions, the first only having 2 books in it because they're 2 books that I knew I would need in 2022, and I had received a $25 gift card for thrift books, excuse me, before Christmas from my roommate. And like I said, I knew I wanted and needed these 2 books, so I ended up just getting them, and then I was like, I'm gonna wait and see what I get from other people for Christmas before I get any more. But we'll at least get these 2. So the 2 I got there, none of these have been delivered yet, so I'm just gonna have pictures here. But first of all, I purchased Fathers and Sons by Turgenev, I think. Anyway, here's the cover, so if I got the author's name incorrect, you can see it there. But this one is the first book that Jennifer Brooks is reading for her book club that she just started, her classics book club. I'm honestly not sure if I'm actually going to read this in the month of January. I really want to, but my reading mood has just been so weird that I'm not totally sure how things are gonna go, but I got it. It's not very long, so I do have high hopes I'll be able to get to it in January. I know absolutely nothing about it, but I do know that Jennifer Brooks recently has gotten really into this author and really loved him, so I'm really excited about it. Plus, I just don't have a lot of Russian authors that I've tried, so I figured even if I don't quite get to this one in January, it will be nice to have a wider variety of Russian literature on my TBR. The other book I got in that purchase was The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. This is the 3rd book in the Thomas Cromwell series by Hilary Mantel, and I am co-hosting a buddy read or read-along of this, excuse me, with Emily from Novelle Novels and Marissa from Latently Bookish. I will link their channels down below as well as our announcement video. And I did not own the 3rd book in this trilogy yet, so I ended up getting a copy with my gift card, and I'm so freaking excited to read this series. It's one I've wanted to read for so long, so it will be so nice to finally get to it. And now I have the whole series, so I'm all set to get through the full read-along, the full experience of this series, and I'm just looking forward to it so much. Okay, moving into the second purchase I made, which ended up being a lot more books. I think there were 12 books in this order that I ended up getting. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to organize these by non-classics, then Victorian classics, then I got a couple that were non-Victorian classics. So let's start with the non-classics. The first book, the first non-classic I purchased was The Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. This is an author I've heard so much about, and this book specifically I know a lot of people love, and it just feels very up my alley for what type of fantasy really gets to be, what type of fantasy I really love, which tends to be more of a fairy tale-esque style of fantasy, and this one definitely has that. I believe this is about a girl who, I could be totally wrong about this, but I think her brothers end up being transformed into swans, and then she ends up getting her voice taken away, so she can't say anything, but she has to solve this issue. I could be totally wrong about that, but I do know it is based off of an actual fairy tale. I'm not sure from what part of the world this fairy tale comes from. I'd have to do more research into that, but it does sound amazing and definitely something I will love. Next, I picked up Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, and I've heard a lot about Anne Rice throughout my life, really, at least throughout recent years. And The Interview with a Vampire is her most popular work by far. I will say I'm not a huge vampire person, which is why I think it's taken me a while to really decide to pick this up, but I'm not averse to vampires. I'm more of a witch person, and I know Anne Rice has a series about witches, so if I like her style in this, I probably will pick that up. But I figure Anne Rice is one of those authors that she's so popular that I want to try her and see how it goes, but I'm not sure if she'll work for me. She may, I just genuinely don't know. So I feel like if I only read one book from her, I want it to be her most popular work. So that's why I'm going with this one. But like I said, if I end up liking her style, I'll probably pick up her Witch series because that's a little more up my alley, I think. Then we have The Last Light of the Sun by Guy Gavriel Kay. If you watch Jennifer Brooks, you may notice that several of these kind of come from recent recommendations she's had. Also, The Daughter of the Forest, I think, was her favorite at one point, although that one I picked up because several other people on BookTube have mentioned it as well. But anyway, this one's definitely all Jennifer Brooks. She mentioned really liking this author this year, and he sounds like the type of author that I may not enjoy, but I may really love. And he writes a type of book that's kind of like historical fiction, fantasy combined, it sounds like. And that really intrigues me. So I'm going to give this a try. I'm really excited. I think this one has to do with Alfred the Great, but I think he doesn't play a huge role in it. I think it's just kind of more that time period, inspired by that time period. So anyway, very excited to give this one a try. It's been on my radar for a while now, and hopefully it's one that will lead me to find a new author that I can really fall in love with and enjoy his work. Then we have The Witch's Boy by Kelly Barnhill. Like I mentioned, I really am interested in witches. I really like witches and stories. And this is one where I read The Girl Who Drank the Moon earlier this year and really enjoyed it. It wasn't necessarily a favorite of the year, but it's one I really, really liked. And when I heard Kelly Barnhill had this book as well, I figured I would try it out. So I finally got my hands on it, finally purchased it, and I'm very excited to see how I end up feeling about it. I don't know anything about it beyond the fact that it's middle grade, has a witch in it, and that's really all I need to know. I'm really excited to give this a try and see if Kelly Barnhill is one that I'll want to follow from now on. And the last book I purchased was The Girl in the Tower by, oh my goodness, what's her name? Catherine Arden. This is the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale, which I read just about a month ago and really liked a lot. And I wanted to make sure I continue with the series sooner rather than later, so I picked up a copy. So very excited to read it. So glad I had the gift card available to purchase this so that I can read it as soon as possible, like I said, because I have a tendency recently to not follow through with series very quickly. So anyway, we have this. Next, let's move into Victorian classics. So I ended up picking up The Warden and Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. This is a series, oh my goodness, Barsetshire series that I've really wanted to start, and I do have the first book in his other series, the Palliser series, that I was considering reading because one of my goals before next Victober is to start one of Anthony Trollope's series. And so I was going to do that, but that one's a little longer, and I've really wanted to get to this series, the Barsetshire series, for a long time, and there's been so many times I've put these two books into my cart on Thrift Books while I'm trying to decide what to purchase, and then I end up deleting them every time. And so this time I was like, you know what, I just need to freaking get these books. So I did, and I don't know when I'll read them. I still am not sure which series I would rather start, so we'll kind of see. I think it's better to read one before the other, actually, because I think they do kind of link up at some point a little bit, but I can't remember which one it is. So I'll look into that and maybe go by that. But anyway, I do have these books now, so I'm very, very excited about that. Next, I picked up Miss Marjoribanks by Mrs. Margaret Oliphant. And this is an author that I've tried one of her books before called Hester, and that one I ended up not loving very much. In fact, it was one of my most disappointing reads of that year, so I really didn't like it, but I am willing to give Margaret Oliphant another try, and this is one of her more popular works, so I'm going to see how I end up feeling about it. And I'm excited to give her another chance because she is a pretty prolific Victorian author, so I'm very excited to try an author that hopefully I'll enjoy at least some of her stuff and it will open the door to a lot more options just because she's written so much. So there's that. And then the last Victorian classic I picked up was Life's Little Ironies by Thomas Hardy. This is a collection of short stories by Thomas Hardy, and it was the last like full book by Hardy that I had yet to own. So now I have all of his like works that were just his that he completed. He has several other short stories that were not put in his own collections but were rather part of other things that I may need to find a way to seek out, but until then, for now, I'm going to just stick with these and say that my collection is pretty much complete as far as Thomas Hardy goes, so that's really exciting. I don't know what specific theme runs through this short story collection, but like I said, I am just excited to have all of Hardy's kind of more solidly full works, if that makes sense. Okay, and then I just had two non-Victorian classics that I picked up. So the first one is the Saga of the Volsungs, or Volsunga Saga, which is a saga, a Nordic saga that is pretty well known. I've heard a lot about it, heard that it's pretty good, and I really want to get into the sagas this year. At least by the end of 2022, I would love to have read at least one of the sagas. So this is one I've heard good things about, and it's intrigued me, so I decided to pick it up. And the last one from this purchase was Selected Writings by Thomas More, and Thomas More is a man, a historical figure that interests me a lot. I don't totally love him because he's one of the ones who really made Richard III not look so great, and that makes me sad. But I also think he was a very beautiful writer from what little I have read by him. And I think he's also just an interesting figure in general, just the role he played in Henry VIII's court. And yeah, he was just a very interesting man, and so I'm excited to read more of his writings. I am working myself up to reading his history of Richard III because I don't think I'll like it, but I am also curious. Being a Richard III lover, I just have a fascination with learning as much about him as I can, and so that book really played a huge role in how we perceive Richard today, and so I am curious to read it at some point. I don't know when, but I'm going to start with these selected writings of Thomas More to see how I end up getting into his work, how I like the rest of his writing outside of what I've already read. So anyway, yes, excited to have that. Okay, I'm losing light, so I'm going to try to hurry up a little bit. I did end up going to Barnes & Noble today. I'm going to count this as part of my Christmas haul just because they were kind of like Christmas presents to me. Many of you probably know, at least in America, Barnes & Noble this week that I'm filming this has had all their hardcovers off, 50% off. So I decided to take advantage of that because there was at least one book that recently came out, or at least came out in the past year, that I've been really wanting. And so I figured, well, it was on sale, I may as well pick it up. And that book is Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. This is a retelling of King Arthur from the perspective of, I believe, the Lady of Shalott. Yes, the Lady of Shalott, and Jennifer Brooks says this was really good, and I trust her opinion on King Arthur retellings. So I've had it on my radar for a while. I'm very picky about King Arthur retellings. I haven't read that many, but I think they can easily be done in a way that I don't really like. But I think from the Lady of Shalott's perspective, it's going to be very intriguing and very the type of King Arthur retelling that I would like. So anyway, going to read this, very excited. And then another book that I think it was released earlier this year, but it may have been 2020. In fact, it probably was 2020 now that I think about it. But anyway, it is a historical fiction. It is The Yellow Wife by Sadeka Johnson. I am so sorry, I probably pronounced that first name wrong. But this is a story, I believe it's about a woman who grew up as a slave in the South, and she ends up, when she gets older, marrying a wealthy man, I believe. I could be totally wrong about that, but I've heard good things. It's been one of those that pops up on Goodreads a lot. And it's not very long. So I'm very excited to read this. I've heard it's pretty gut-wrenching, so I'm preparing myself for that, but it just sounds fascinating. So very excited to read that. And then the last book I picked up from Barnes & Noble was The Fountains of Silence by Rudis Petties. I have really loved this author's works in the past, both Salts of the Sea and Between Shades of Grey, specifically Salts of the Seas especially. But this is another one of hers that I have yet to read, and I've wanted this for years since it came out. I can't remember when it was released. I want to say it was 2019, but I could be very wrong about that. Now I'm curious. Yes, 2019. So I am very excited to finally have this. This follows people during the Spanish Civil War. Yes, and that is all I know about it, but I love Rudis Petties' writing. I think the way she does historical fiction just really works for me, and I love the way she addresses historical events that maybe we don't talk about as much, and so she really opens the door to a lot of learning, and I really appreciate that in historical fiction. So very excited to read this. Okay, and with the last little bit of daylight, I'm going to talk about a few bookish items that I received. So the first thing I got from my brother, and it was this lovely Lithographs Tess of the D'Urbervilles t-shirt, which I love. I do have the tote of this, but I did not have the shirt. So I'm very excited to have this. The fabric is so nice. If you haven't heard of Lithographs, I mean, this isn't an ad, but they do a really good job with their products. And if you like classics, they may have something you'll really like. So got that. I'm very excited about that. Sorry, I've said very excited so many times in this, but it's just the way it is, I guess. Then from my friend, I ended up getting some replicas of the coins from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And I can add this to my little Harry Potter shrine that I have at my apartment. So cute, really love it in this nice little box. Then we have a galleon, a sickle, and a nut, and they're just beautiful. I'm so excited to have them. Okay, just a couple more things and then we'll be done. I ended up getting this lovely, daily calendar for 2022, a little desk calendar with Shakespearean insults. So I got this from my roommate, and I told her that I'll just yell them at her every morning so she can know what they are for the day. And so I have an excuse to insult her in Shakespearean language. So anyway, yes, I thought this was so cute and fun, and I'm excited to see what it contains because there are so many great Shakespearean insults throughout his plays, so very excited for that. Again, sorry I keep saying very excited, I just am. And the last item I got is not super bookish, but it is related to books in a way, and it is this lovely Yale sweatshirt, pullover sweatshirt, and I received this from the same roommate actually as the Shakespearean insults because it's for Rory Gilmore from Gilmore Girls, which is a show I love, and Rory Gilmore loves to read, so it definitely works for books in that way. And that is it. That is my bookish Christmas. Let me know down below what you received, your favorite things you received for Christmas, as I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!